This week on Maker Update, a transformer you can ride on, a time travel cable box, an IoT cat doorbell, and easy animated robot eyes. Hey, I'm Donald Bell and welcome back to another episode of Maker Update, our collection of the coolest new projects and tips from the Maker community. I hope you're doing well. I have another great show for you. Let's get started with the project of the week. James Bruton has a new video out showing how he built this electric ride-on car that transforms into a robot. If this had been available as an actual toy I could have bought as a kid in the 80s, I would have lost my mind. A transformer you can ride on, and it turns into an adult-sized robot? If it could also microwave a Hot Pocket, I probably would have traded in my parents for one of these. So how did he do it? Well, first, it's worth noting that like most of his projects, there's a bunch of large 3D printed elements here, including the gears, which are crucial for moving all the joints. That said, he's added some extruded aluminum bar here for extra strength and rigidity. As you can imagine, you need a lot of small but powerful motors to move all these pieces around. But to orchestrate them in these smooth motions at different speeds, you also need the motors to be smart and understand their position like a servo. And I think this is my favorite tip from this project. James added a 3D printed piece with a magnet in the middle to each of the 6 joints in the legs. As the legs extend, the magnets rotate, and this change in the direction of the magnets can be read by encoders placed over each of these joints. This combination effectively turns each of the 6 high-torque DC motors into servos, so you get positional feedback on each joint that can be managed by a microcontroller, in this case a Teensy board. So instead of telling the motors to run for a length of time, or run until you hit a limit switch, you can say run from this magnetic position to this other magnetic position and ramp your speed up and down smoothly as you approach those locations. There's so much more to this project, and James does a fantastic job explaining every detail. It looks like a lot of fun, though James admits there are areas for improvement. First and foremost, the addition of brakes. So keep that in mind when you're building your own ride-on Autobot. You can find a link to the video along with the CAD file and the code all down in the description. More projects. There's a fascinating subgenre of Raspberry Pi media player projects where people will make period-specific media players filled with shows just from the 60s or the 80s. For Shane Mason of wrongdog reckons the nostalgia sweet spot is the 1990s. But it's not just about the shows, it's also about the vintage, chunky cable box experience. With this project, freely available on GitHub, you get to live out your 90s cable TV tycoon fantasy. You can schedule TV programs on multiple channels, including ads and station ID bumpers. Everything you need to feel like you just time traveled back to the 90s and turn on the TV. We've covered an earlier version of this software about 8 months ago, but one major upgrade in this new version is the cable box simulation. You can now 3D print your own cable box, which works as a Raspberry Pi enclosure and uses a numeric keypad to switch between channels. The other big upgrade is the sophistication of how the content catalog and the scheduler work together. Using tags and content types, primetime stuff now plays only during prime time, and news and soap operas and kid shows and talk shows, they all get automatically sorted into an appropriate schedule. Even holiday shows can be tagged so that they only play during the right time of year. It's a great project and worth checking out if there's a golden era of TV you want back in your life. And check out this entry into the Hackaday Pet Hacks contest, which is wrapping up now. It's called Cat at the Door by Andrea Favero. Here's the situation. You let your cat outside to explore or answer nature's call, but you know it will want to come back in at some point, and in the meantime, you've got better things to do than wait by the door. So, using a combination of millimeter wave radar and a BLE sensor that can detect a tag in your cat's collar, Cat at the Door will send you an alert when your cat is ready to come back inside. Alerts are made using a combination of an audible beep and the cat's name appearing on the e-ink display. The system supports multiple cats or other animals so long as they all have their own unique tag. It's also a wireless system that can run for multiple days on a single charge, thanks to some clever power management and a deep sleep mode. You can find the code, bill of materials, and very detailed instructions using the link in the description. Now for some tips and tools on Adafruit. The Ruiz brothers and Liz Clark have cooked up this fun little LED matrix alarm clock project. It's a great project, but I think it's an even better resource, which is why I'm including it here. Clocks are an endlessly remixable type of project, and the electronics and code at the core of this design are just begging to be repurposed for other clock projects. There's minimal soldering, the multifunction rotary encoder is intuitive, the time is just set by your local network connection, and the multicolor LED matrix display looks great and allows for some fun animations and customization. On the Make Something channel, David Picciuto walks us through the highs and lows of his workshop remodel, and is particularly interesting because it's not your usual workshop. It's a converted garage, mostly used for woodworking, but David made some very different, very specific design choices that break the norm. There's carpet on the floor, a drop ceiling from the rafters, and in general a goal of making the space feel more like an art studio than a traditional woodworker space. But there's one big problem, and maybe it's something you can relate to: uneven concrete floors. David goes through some options for fixing them. And on the FluxGarage channel, a look at an Arduino library called Robo eyes. When it comes to adding eyes to your robot project, or at least the appearance of eyes, it's easy for them to look a little creepy. But the minimal, monochromatic, animated eyes from the Robo Eyes library offers an easy way to give your project a little personality just using an OLED screen. You can find a link to the code down in the description, which also includes this video walkthrough of how to use it and how to make it your own. For this week's DigiKey Spotlight, I'm including a link to a playlist collecting all 17 videos in the Potentially Genius series. Whether you're new to the series or just haven't caught them all, I just can't recommend them enough. In each episode, you get to see the Tomorrowlab team of designers and engineers tackle a challenge in creating a product prototype. To me, I just get a real thrill seeing different disciplines come together to bring an idea to life. I think you will too. Alright, and that does it for this week's show. Be sure to subscribe, leave a thumbs up, leave a comment. Thanks again to Cria Ciencia for the use of their lab. They're an outstanding resource for childhood science education in Barcelona. I'll leave a link where you can learn more down in the description. Thanks as always to DigiKey for making this show possible, and thank you for watching. I'll see you soon.